The first thing I noticed was my chair. At my parents' house, I always sat with my back to the sliding glass door, partly because the draft bothered my mother and partly because I was the one who got up the most. More water, extra napkins, the salad bowl nobody wanted to pass because my father stacked mail on the end of the table. I had spent half my life sitting there, one foot hooked around the chair leg, ready to move before anyone had to ask. That Sunday, my chair was on the other side of the table. My mother had set me between my sister Mia and the wall with the old family photos. She had put herself closest to the kitchen, which was strange because she hated jumping up during dinner. She believed a meal should be served once, properly, and then everyone should appreciate it while it was hot. But that night, the serving spoons were already laid out like she expected interruptions. Rain ticked against the glass door. The refrigerator hummed too loudly. My father's wool coat hung over the back of a kitchen stool, damp at the shoulders, even though he always took coats to the hall closet. On the counter sat a box of white wine with the plastic spout turned sideways. My mother called boxed wine tacky. I stood in the doorway holding the tulips I had bought at Kroger because my mother liked fresh flowers but complained if anyone spent florist money. Lemon furniture polish cut through the smell of roasted chicken skin. "You didn't have to bring anything," she told me. Her smile came late. Mia was already at the table, turning her water glass by the rim. She looked up, then down at the glass again, like eye contact had become a bill she could not pay. "Did I miss something?" I tried to make it light. That was my family job. I softened rooms before they could harden. My father lifted the carving knife, then set it down. "No, just hungry. Traffic was bad?" It's Sunday in March in Ohio. The only traffic was a goose standing in the road near Cedar. I put the tulips on the counter. Are we pretending that doesn't deserve concern? Usually Mia would have laughed. She loved stupid animal interruptions. Instead, she pressed her thumb to a drop of water on her glass and dragged it into a line. My mother took the flowers from me. "They're pretty, Elena. Sit down before everything gets cold." That was wrong, too. She always trimmed stems first. I sat in the wrong chair and felt the wrongness move around me like a draft. Dinner looked normal if you only glanced. Chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans with almonds because my mother thought plain vegetables were a moral failure. My father's tablet sat near the centerpiece, propped against a napkin holder. He used it for recipes sometimes, though he had not cooked anything that night. Mia asked about school. I was an elementary counselor, and my family used my job the way people use a safe radio station in waiting rooms. There was always a child with separation anxiety or a parent who sent too many emails. Safe topics. Tender, but not too tender. I told them about a second grader who had started keeping emergency granola bars in his desk because his parents were separating and he did not trust either house to remember snack day. My mother made the face she used when she wanted to seem moved but not inconvenienced. Poor thing. Some parents make everything so dramatic. Mia's fork hit her plate. It was small, just metal against china, but everyone heard it. I looked at her. "You okay?" "Fine." Her voice came out thin. My father cleared his throat. "Elena, eat before it gets cold." I had been doing that since I was 10, obeying the temperature of food as if warmth were respect. I cut into the chicken. The skin cracked. My mother watched my knife, not my face. 5 minutes later, the tablet lit up. It was angled toward me because my father had moved it when he reached for salt. The screen brightened with a notification banner, and for one clean second, I saw my mother's email account at the top. Subject: Elena's biological father. DNA results and contact request. Nobody moved. The rain seemed to get louder, though it probably did not. My fork stayed in my hand. A piece of chicken slid off the tines and landed on the plate with a soft, ugly sound. My mother made a noise I had never heard from her before. Not a gasp. More like she had been touched on the back of the neck by something cold. My father reached for the tablet. I got there first. I did not plan to. I was not dramatic in my family. I was the daughter who refilled water, remembered birthdays, texted before visiting, and said, "No worries," when there were absolutely worries. But my hand closed around the tablet before my father could turn it face down. "Elena," my mother whispered. The notification was still there. Biological father, DNA results, contact request. The words did not make sense together. They looked like someone had dropped medical equipment into the middle of our Sunday dinner. Mia covered her mouth. That was when the second truth arrived, before anyone explained the first. My sister was not confused. She was scared. My father kept his hand in the air, fingers slightly bent, as if the tablet might still decide to come to him. "Give that to me," he said. Not angry. Careful. That was worse. I looked at my mother, then at Mia. My sister had gone pale around her mouth. She was 29, a nurse, someone who could clean blood from a child's eyebrow without flinching. Now she was staring at the tablecloth like it might open and let her through. "What is this?" My voice sounded too calm, but only because I had misplaced the part of me that knew how to make noise. My mother set both hands on either side of her plate. Her wedding ring clicked against the china. We were going to talk after dinner. After dinner. Like the truth was coffee. Like my life could wait behind dessert plates. Talk about what? Elena. My father lowered his hand and folded it with the other one, the way he did when explaining car insurance. This is not something to handle by grabbing a screen in the middle of a meal. I almost apologized. That is the part I hate admitting. My throat formed the beginning of it, automatic and obedient. Sorry, I just saw my name. Sorry, I did not mean to make this awkward. Sorry. Tell me the correct way to learn I may not know who my father is. The word pressed against my teeth. Then Mia whispered, "Mom." My mother turned on her. "Not like this." I looked down at the tablet. The notification had disappeared, but the email app was still open behind it. My thumb hovered over the screen. I knew the passcode because my father used my birthday for everything, which had always felt sweet until that second. "Don't," my mother breathed. I typed my own birthday. The tablet unlocked. My father's chair scraped back. "Elena, stop." The email was at the top. It had been opened already. The sender was someone named Tessa Morley. There were attachments below the first few lines, little gray rectangles with file names too small to read. My eyes skipped over the greeting and landed on phrases that seemed to rise from the screen. Commercial DNA match. Daniel's medical history before we lose more time. My mother was crying without sound. One tear had gotten caught in the makeup under her right eye, making a small dark crescent. "Who is Daniel?" I asked. No one answered. I tapped the first attachment. Mia reached across me, then stopped before touching my wrist. That tiny restraint hurt more than if she had grabbed me. She knew exactly what she was interrupting. A document opened. It showed a genetic match summary. My name, my age range, a list of percentages, a predicted parent-child relationship connected to a deceased man named Daniel Reeves through a niece's uploaded profile. For a moment, my brain tried to make it professional. I had sat with parents through custody confusion, foster placements, guardianship changes, children calling 3 different women mom because that was the shape survival had taken. I knew families were complicated. But this was my father's kitchen. My baby photo was on the wall behind me in a silver frame. My father had taught me how to ride a bike in the church parking lot. He had held my hair when I had the stomach flu in 4th grade. He had walked me around college orientation with a campus map folded wrong. I turned the tablet so they could see the document. "Is this a scam?" My mother seized on the question too quickly. "We hoped it might be. At first." At first. The room shifted again. "How long have you known?" My father rubbed one hand down his face. This is why we wanted to sit down and explain it properly. "We are sitting down. Not with you upset." I laughed once. It came out flat and mean. Mia flinched. My mother pushed back from the table. "I'm getting the pie." I stared at her. "You're what?" Nobody can think on an empty stomach. She stood, picked up 3 dessert plates, and carried them to the counter with careful little movements. Her back was straight. Her blouse was tucked in. She looked like every hostess in every family photo, keeping the table beautiful while something behind the wall burned. I watched her open the pie box. apple crumb from the bakery near St. Agnes. I had ordered it for her birthday brunch next weekend and dropped it off early because she said she had too much to do. Of course I had. I had been preparing food for the room where they planned to prepare me. "Mom." My voice cracked on the word. "Put the pie down." She froze. I opened the second attachment. A photo filled the screen. Hospital lighting. A young woman in bed, hair damp at her temples, holding a newborn wrapped in a striped blanket. My mother, maybe 23, exhausted and beautiful and terrified. Beside the bed stood a man I did not know. Someone had cropped the photo badly. Half his shoulder was missing, but his face was there. Dark hair, narrow chin, eyes tilted down toward the baby like he was afraid to want her too much. My father was not in the photo. The fork slid from Mia's hand and hit the floor. I did not pick it up. I left with my coat unbuttoned and the tablet still in my hand. Nobody stopped me at the door. That might have been mercy or cowardice or the simple fact that my family did not know how to chase a problem once it walked out of the room. We were excellent at wiping counters after one. The rain had turned colder. It hit my face in tiny needles while I crossed the driveway. Behind me, warm light filled the kitchen windows. I could see my mother's silhouette near the sink, my father's near the table. Mia bent down for the fork I had refused to pick up. Even then, a stupid part of me wanted to go back and help clean. I drove 3 miles to the Kroger where I had bought the tulips. The sign glowed red through the wet windshield. A cart rolled crookedly across the lot until it bumped a curb and stopped. I parked near the garden center entrance, under a light that buzzed like an insect. My phone had 4 missed calls before I turned off the engine. Mom, Dad, Mia, Mia again. A text came through while I was still staring at the names. "Please don't read anything alone, let us explain." I almost typed back, "Then explain." Instead, I put the tablet on the steering wheel and opened the email again. The first lines were polite in the way strangers are polite when they know they are holding a match near your curtains. "Dear Mrs. Harper, I know this is painful, and I am sorry to contact you again, but Elena is 32 years old. Daniel died in September. Before he passed, he asked me to keep trying if the DNA result came through after he was gone." My breath fogged the windshield. I wiped a circle with the sleeve of my coat. Again. Tessa had written again. I scrolled down and found the chain. Dates stacked on each other like receipts. January 7th, January 22nd, February 12th, March 14th. My parents had known since at least January. Maybe earlier because the first email was already apologizing for previous contact through a genealogy site. I clicked through the attachments with hands that kept missing the screen. The DNA summary was clinical and clean. Numbers, probability, relationship estimate. It should have felt like proof, but it felt like being flattened by a language that had no place for the sound I made in the car. The photo hurt worse. I zoomed in until the man's face blurred. Daniel Reeves. I tested the name silently. It did not open a door in me. It did not stir some hidden recognition. He was a stranger with my eyebrows, maybe. Or maybe I only wanted to find something because the alternative was that nothing in my own face belonged anywhere. I touched my cheekbone. Then I saw the file name. Mercy Hospital, Elena Daniel, Lauren 1993 uncropped. JPG uncropped. The version attached to the email had been cropped by someone before Tessa sent it, or before my mother saved it, or before it entered whatever private archive my parents kept behind the life I knew. I searched the email for the word adoption. It appeared once. I understand Mark legally adopted Elena when she was 2, and I am not trying to challenge the family that raised her. Daniel was not either. He wanted her to have medical history, photographs, and the choice to know where she came from. Mark, my father, legally adopted, when she was 2. I sat back so fast my head hit the headrest. The lie was not that my father had loved me. I could not make that false, even with proof glowing in my lap. The lie was that everyone had let me believe love and truth were the same thing. A woman pushed a toddler through the rain toward the store entrance, one hand on the child's hood, the other gripping a grocery bag. The child kept trying to step in puddles. The woman kept redirecting him with tired patience. I thought of all the times my mother had told the story of my birth like it was a family movie worn soft from replaying. 30 hours of labor. My father fainting when the nurse said the word crowning. My grandmother smuggling in deli turkey because hospital food was depressing. I had repeated those stories at school during icebreakers. I had used them when kids asked if I looked like my mom or dad. I had laughed about my father fainting. Had he been in the hospital at all? My phone rang again. Mia. I let it go. Then a new text appeared. I'm outside. I looked up. Mia stood under the garden center awning in a denim jacket with no umbrella, hugging herself against the rain. Her hair had gone flat at the sides. She looked smaller than she had at dinner. Younger, almost like the sister who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms even though she claimed she was checking on me. My first instinct was to unlock the passenger door. My second was to keep it locked long enough for both of us to feel it. I pressed the button. She climbed in, bringing rain and cold air and the smell of my mother's apple crumb pie on her sweater. Neither of us spoke until the car windows blurred white. Mia held her hands in front of the dashboard vent, though the air was still cold. Mom is losing it, she said. Of course, that was where she started. I watched rain crawl down the windshield in silver lines. Am I supposed to comfort you about that? Her mouth tightened. No, I just mean she can't breathe. Dad's trying to get her to sit down. Pie didn't help? Mia looked at me then. Her eyes were red, and for one mean second, I was glad. I wanted somebody else to look wrecked by my life. That was awful, she admitted. Which part? The pie? Or the secret biological father? She flinched again. I had never been the sister who made her flinch. Mia had always been sharper than me, quicker to roll her eyes, better at saying no without writing an apology email afterward. I was the one who made peace. She was the one who borrowed money and forgot to pay it back until I made a joke out of needing groceries. Tonight she looked like she had been carrying glass in her pockets. I didn't know how to tell you, she murmured. The sentence sat between us, steaming with everything inside it. I turned slowly. You knew. She pressed the heels of her hands to her eyes. Not forever. That is not an answer. Since January, sort of. Mom called me after the first email because she was hysterical, and I thought maybe it was spam or one of those ancestry mistakes. Then the DNA stuff came in and Dad found the old paperwork, and then... She dropped her hands. Then it wasn't a mistake. The parking lot light flickered above us. Somewhere behind the store, a truck backed up with 3 dull beep. 3 months, I said. I wanted them to tell you. But not enough to tell me yourself. Mia swallowed. I wanted it to be handled right. The word handled sat between us like another serving dish. Managed. Made less messy for whoever was loudest in their pain. What was tonight supposed to be? She looked away. I already knew I would hate the answer. Mom thought if we had dinner first, if it felt normal, you would know nothing was changing. Mia rubbed at a spot of mascara under her eye. Then after pie, Dad would explain the adoption part. Mom would tell you Daniel had reached out years ago, but it was complicated. We were going to give you the choice to read Tessa's messages later. Give me the choice later, I repeated. Elena. Was the birthday brunch part of it? Her silence answered before she did. Mom didn't want this hanging over her birthday. I laughed, but it broke halfway through. Her birthday. That's not how she meant it. How did she mean it, Mia? Please, counsel me through it. Her face hardened. Don't do that. Do what? Use your school voice on me. Like I'm a parent refusing an evaluation. The insult landed because it was partly true. I did have a voice for upset adults. Low and patient and shaped around the belief that if I stayed calm enough, nobody would punish the child in the room. I had used it with landlords, doctors' offices, my mother's church friends, my father's mechanic, and my sister when she overdrew her account 2 winters ago. I had used it on myself most of all. Fine. I set the tablet face down on my lap. Tell me in your voice. Mia's chin trembled. Mom was 22. Daniel was her boyfriend before Dad. They broke up badly. She found out she was pregnant after she'd already started seeing Dad. Daniel wanted to be involved, then he didn't. Then his family got involved, then everybody was threatening everybody. I don't know all of it. Dad married Mom when you were little. He adopted you. They decided telling you would confuse you. I was 2. Then I was 5, then 12, then 20, then 32. She had no answer. A man ran past the car with a case of bottled water over his shoulder, jacket pulled over his head. The ordinary world kept doing ordinary things with cruel efficiency. Why now? I asked. Because Daniel died. Tessa found the DNA match through his account. She said he had been sick and wanted you to have medical history. Mom thought if she ignored it, it would go away. And you helped her ignore it. I helped her not fall apart. That sentence turned the key in a lock I had not known was there. Because that was what I did too. That was what all of us did around my mother. We adjusted the light, softened the language, moved the chair, served the pie, made sure her feelings had somewhere to sit before anyone else entered the room. You planned tonight so I would forgive her before I talked to Tessa. Mia looked out the window. Mia. A tear slid down her cheek, and she wiped it angrily. I was afraid you would blow up the family. I stared at my sister, the one person I had trusted to make fun of our parents with me from inside the same life. You mean I might tell the truth before everyone finished dessert? She folded forward, elbows on her knees. I know it sounds terrible. It is terrible. For the first time, she did not argue. I picked up the tablet and opened Tessa's email again. My hands were steadier now, which scared me. A shaky body still believes someone might catch it. A steady one has started making plans. Give me Tessa's number. Mia turned fast. Tonight? Now. Mom will see that as a betrayal. I looked at her until she understood what she had just asked me to protect. Her shoulders dropped. Outside, the automatic doors opened and closed, spilling fluorescent light onto the wet pavement. Mia took out her phone. I did not call Tessa from the parking lot. That was the first boundary I failed to keep that night. I told myself I needed quiet, my own apartment, a charger, a glass of water. Really, I needed one last hour in which the truth existed, but had not yet spoken in another person's voice. Mia texted me the number before she got out of my car. She did not hug me. I was grateful for that. If she had touched me, I might have softened, and softness had already cost me too much. My apartment looked childish when I walked in. Not actually childish, but suddenly assembled from a person who had believed in things. A framed photo of the 4 of us at Put-in-Bay sat on the bookshelf. My father had one hand on my shoulder in the picture. My mother wore sunglasses and held a paper cup of lemonade. Mia had bunny ears behind my head. I turned the frame face down, then turned it back because the gesture felt too dramatic and not dramatic enough. The tablet had 23% battery. I plugged it in beside my couch and sat on the floor because furniture seemed too formal for whatever I was becoming. Tessa answered on the 4th ring. This is Tessa. Her voice was older than mine, maybe late 40s, with a cautious warmth that made me want to hang up before she could be kind. My name is Elena Harper. I pressed my palm flat against the rug. I think you've been emailing my mother. Silence. Then a soft breath. Yes, I have. No shock. No performance. She had been waiting for me. Who was Daniel Reeves? Tessa took a moment and I heard a television in the background, then the muffled sound of it being turned down. He was my uncle, my mom's younger brother. He died last September. Died. The words closed a door before I had seen the room. I looked toward my kitchen, where the light over the stove had burned out 2 weeks earlier. I had meant to ask my father to bring his step stool next Sunday. The thought was so ordinary it made me nauseous. Did he know about me? Near the end, he suspected. He had taken a DNA test because of some health stuff in the family. When your profile showed as a likely child connection, he was already very sick. He asked me to reach out because he wasn't sure your mother would answer him. Did she? Tessa hesitated. Not directly. Your father replied once. Mark. He asked us not to contact you. He said you were sensitive and that this would destabilize you. Sensitive. I closed my eyes. That word had followed me my entire life like a hand on my shoulder. Sensitive when I cried at raised voices. Sensitive when I noticed my mother was angry before she spoke. Sensitive when I asked why my father and I both had dimples but nothing else. Sensitive when I stopped asking because everybody smiled too carefully. I'm a school counselor, I told Tessa. I spend most of my day helping children name feelings without being punished for having them. Then I'm sorry they used that word against you. The kindness landed in the wrong place. I covered my mouth and breathed through my nose until I could speak. Was Daniel trying to get something? Money? Contact? Forgiveness? No. Tessa sounded sad but firm. There isn't money. I don't want you thinking this is some movie ending. Daniel rented half a duplex in Dayton and left behind more fishing gear than sense. He had medical records, some photographs, and a letter he wrote when he knew the chemo wasn't working. That's all. I almost laughed. More fishing gear than sense. It was the first detail about him that felt like a person instead of a crisis. Why wasn't he around? Tessa exhaled. That is the hard part, and I only know his side. He and your mother were young. There was a fight after you were born. His drinking was bad then. His parents pushed too hard. Your mother's family pushed back harder. He told me he came by twice when you were little and was told you had a stable father now and he needed to stop confusing things. He was ashamed and shame made him useless for a long time. That answer was worse than a villain. A villain would have given me somewhere clean to put my anger. Instead, there was a weak man, a scared young mother, a good father who adopted me, and decades of adults choosing silence until silence became furniture. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, I whispered. You don't have to do anything tonight. Everyone kept telling me what kind of timing my own life required. Tessa seemed to hear the problem because she added, I mean, you don't owe me a reaction. You don't owe Daniel one either. If you want the letter, I'll send it. If you never answer again, I'll understand. I stared at the dark stove light. A choice. A real one. Offered without a plate of pie behind it. Send it, I said. My phone buzzed while Tessa was confirming my email. Mom, please come over tomorrow. Just us. I cannot sleep knowing you are alone with this. Below it, another text arrived from Mia. Please don't punish Mom on her birthday week. She is not built for this. I looked at that sentence until the letters blurred. Not built for this. Neither was I. But apparently I had been furnished for it. I printed the emails at the library because my printer had been out of ink since Christmas. The woman at the desk helped me load money onto a copy card while a teenager behind us argued with his mother about overdue manga. I stood there with Tessa's messages in a folder pressed to my chest, listening to ordinary irritation, and felt jealous of problems that could still be solved with $12 and an apology. By 6 the next evening, I was back at my parents' house. I did not bring flowers. I did not bring dessert. I did not use my key. I rang the bell. My mother opened the door too quickly, like she had been waiting with her hand on the knob. She wore jeans and a cream sweater, no makeup except lipstick. Her eyes were swollen. You rang, she murmured. Yes. The word did something to her face. She stepped back. My father stood in the kitchen beside the table. The boxed wine was gone. The tablet was gone. The table had been wiped so thoroughly it looked staged for a real estate listing. At my old seat, the one by the sliding glass door, there was a mug of tea waiting. I did not sit there. I placed the folder on the counter and took the chair closest to the hallway. My mother noticed. Of course she noticed. Her mouth pulled tight, but she only turned to the sink and began folding a dish towel that was already folded. I talked to Tessa, I began. My father closed his eyes for half a second. She had no right to insert herself into this family. This family. He said it like a fence built out of words. She had Daniel's letter. She had medical history. She had photos. She had a DNA match to me. And no understanding of what your mother went through. My mother gripped the towel. I opened the folder. I am not here to decide whether Daniel was good. I am here because everybody keeps turning this into a story where the adults were complicated and I was protected. I need dates. Elena, honey. My mother's voice had that soft edge that used to make me sit down before I understood I had been guided there. You are trying to make pain organized. It will not become less painful because you put it in order. Try me. My father looked at me then, really looked, and for a second I saw the man who had checked my tire pressure before every long drive. He seemed tired in a way that made him older than yesterday. Your mother and Daniel dated before I knew her well, he started. Dates. His jaw shifted. 1992. You were born in February of 93. My birthday sat on the counter between us, suddenly belonging to paperwork. Were you at the hospital? My mother made a small, wounded sound. I kept my eyes on my father. No, he answered. Not when you were born. The baby story died without ceremony. No nurse saying crowning, no fainting, no deli turkey joke. Just a no in a clean kitchen. I looked down at the folder because if I looked at him too long, I might start caring more about his shame than my own fracture. When did you adopt me? A few months after your second birthday. Did Daniel consent? My mother turned from the sink. He was gone, Elena. He left. That is not what I asked. He signed after a lot of back and forth, my father replied. He was drinking. He was unstable. His parents were threatening grandparents' rights. Your mother was terrified. I had been there since you were a baby. I was the one changing diapers, paying bills, taking you to the pediatrician. He said those things like invoices love could submit for reimbursement. The terrible part was that they were true. I remembered none of it, but I believed him. My father had shown up. Daniel had failed in ways that mattered. That did not explain the next 30 years. When did Daniel try to contact you after the adoption? My mother shook her head. Once, maybe twice. You were little. He wanted to see you, but he was not safe then. And later? Silence. I opened Tessa's email and read from the printout. Daniel told Tessa he wrote in 2006 after he got sober. He wrote again in 2016 when his mother died and he found old photos. Did you answer? My father put both hands on the back of a chair. My mother whispered, "We thought it would hurt you." I nodded once because if I did not move some part of my body, I might come apart. You thought knowing would hurt me, so you let me keep building myself out of things you knew were false. Your life was not false. My father's voice rose for the first time. I am your father. I earned that. The room went quiet after he said it. Earned. Maybe he had. Maybe that was the problem. He had earned fatherhood and then spent decades acting as if the prize came with ownership of the truth. My mother came toward me, hands open. We loved you so much that the idea of losing you made us stupid. I wanted to take that. I wanted to hold it like a warm mug and let it explain everything. Instead, I looked at the counter. My spare house key sat beside the fruit bowl. Brass, scratched near the teeth, attached to a faded blue tag from the hardware store. The key I used when Mom needed me to water plants, set out chairs, check whether she had left the oven on, drop off pie. Trusted daughter. Convenient daughter. Daughter with access, not answers. I pushed the folder toward them. Tomorrow we talk about who else knows. Tonight you both start writing the timeline. Not the version that makes you look scared and loving. The dates, the choices, the letters, the people who helped. My mother stared at the folder like it was something dead. I cannot do this like a homework assignment. I stood. Then do it like parents who are out of chances. The timeline arrived at 2 a.m. Not from my mother, from my father. He sent it as a phone photo of 3 notebook pages, his blocky handwriting slanting downhill. I could see the kitchen table underneath and the edge of my mother's hand in one corner, fingers curled around a tissue. It was incomplete, but it was more honesty than I had ever been given. Daniel leaving after a fight when I was 7 months old. Daniel returning twice before my second birthday. My mother's parents hiring a lawyer for one consultation because they were afraid Daniel's family would try for visitation. My father filing adoption papers after he and my mother married. A letter from Daniel in 2006, another in 2016. Tessa's first message in December. My parents' first discussion with Mia in January. My thumb stopped on that line. Discussed with Mia. 3 words. So neat, so bloodless. Below it, my father had written, planned family disclosure dinner for March 22nd before Lauren's birthday brunch. Family disclosure dinner. I had been invited to the title of my own disaster. I slept for maybe 2 hours, then woke to texts stacking on my phone. Mia, I know you hate me right now, but please don't make the brunch into a scene. Mom, Grandma already asked what time you are picking her up Saturday. Dad, let's slow down today. We are all exhausted. There was also a calendar reminder I had created weeks earlier. Pick up Mom's cake deposit receipt. I stared at it until my chest hurt. The brunch had been my project because my mother turned helpless around her own birthday in a way everybody pretended was charming. I had booked the private room at a little Italian place near the mall, ordered a lemon cake, arranged for my cousin to bring balloons, and offered to pick up Grandma because Mia was working a half shift. My mother had called it too much, then texted me the guest list with 3 additions. That was the shape of us. She resisted care loudly and accepted it completely. I opened the reservation confirmation. 10 adults, 2 children, a credit card hold with my name on it. My phone rang before I could cancel. Mom. I let it ring until my voicemail caught it. A minute later, she tried again. On the 3rd call, I answered, Elena, please don't shut me out. I was standing in my kitchen in pajama pants, holding the phone with one hand and the cake receipt with the other. I am not available for birthday logistics today. A pause. Then the wounded inhale I knew from childhood, the one that made every room turn toward her. So you are punishing me. I closed my eyes. There was the hallway I had walked down my whole life. At the end was the same door. Reassure her, soften it, prove I was not cruel. I am asking for space. Your grandmother is 86. She does not need to be dragged into old pain. Grandma knew, didn't she? Silence. I sat down on the floor because my knees stopped cooperating. Mom. She knew pieces, not everything. Who else knew pieces? Elena. Families are not courtrooms. I looked at the cake receipt. My name, my card, my neat little confirmation number. I had been building a party for people who knew pieces. No, I answered. Courts require evidence. Families apparently just require the youngest daughter to keep picking up the cake. Her voice sharpened. That is unfair. Maybe it was. I was too tired to make it perfectly fair. The brunch is canceled unless you tell everyone invited why I am not hosting it. You cannot do that 2 days before. I can. People will ask questions. Yes. Her breathing changed. I made one mistake. A 30-year mistake. A mistake with annual Christmas cards and pediatric forms and ancestry jokes, and 1,000 small moments where I had been allowed to stand in a room full of people who knew more about me than I did. You made a life around it, I said. After we hung up, Mia called. I should not have answered, but part of me still believed sisters got a different door. She was crying hard enough that her words came out broken. Mom says you're canceling the whole brunch. I am canceling the part where I host it. Grandma will be confused. The kids will be upset. Everybody will think something awful happened. I laughed without humor. Something awful did happen. You know what I mean, public awful. Public. That was the family terror. Not pain. Witnesses. Mia lowered her voice. Mom is not built for shame. And I was? She started to answer, then stopped. In that silence, I heard the truth she would not say. They had believed I was built for whatever they needed me to carry because I had carried it well. I opened my laptop while Mia was still on the line. What are you doing? Canceling the reservation. Elena, please wait. My cursor hovered over the button. My hand shook now. Not from doubt exactly, but from the cost becoming visible. Aunt Caroline would text. Grandma would call. My father would think I was cruel. My mother would tell the story in a voice that made people touch her arm. I would become the difficult daughter by lunchtime. For 32 years, I had believed being easy was proof I loved them. I clicked cancel. A confirmation popped up. The room did not explode. No one came through the door to tell me I was good. No music rose. My kitchen stayed small, with a dead stove light and yesterday's mug in the sink. Mia was quiet on the phone. "I need to go," I told her. "Are you really going to make Mom tell people?" I looked at the canceled reservation on the screen. "No," I said. "I am going to stop doing it for her." By noon, my phone looked like a family bulletin board had fallen on it. Aunt Caroline wanted to know if the restaurant had lost our reservation. My cousin Danny asked whether she should still bring balloons. Grandma left a voicemail that began with a recipe question and ended with, "Your mother sounds funny, sweetheart. Did you two have words?" I listened to that one twice in my car outside the bakery. The lemon cake was already paid for. I could have left it there. I could have donated it, canceled the pickup, let my mother's birthday become one more thing people whispered about. Instead, I went inside. The girl behind the counter brought out the white box with my mother's name written on a pink order slip. "Lauren, lemon cream, serves 12. I signed the receipt because practical habits do not vanish just because your life cracks open. For 10 minutes, I sat in the car with the cake on the passenger seat. Then I called Grandma. She answered with the television loud behind her. "Elena, are you at work?" "No, I'm taking a personal day." "Good. You sound thin. Have you eaten?" That almost did it. Tenderness from someone who knew pieces. The human heart is inconvenient that way. It does not sort people into clean boxes fast enough. "Grandma, I canceled Mom's brunch." The TV volume lowered. I wondered. Not what happened. Not why would you? I wondered. I gripped the steering wheel. "Did you know Mark adopted me?" A long silence followed. I heard her breathing. I heard a clock ticking somewhere on her end. "Yes." The word was old and tired. I stared through the windshield at a woman carrying cupcakes to a minivan. "Did you know Daniel tried to reach out?" "Not recently. Years ago, I knew he wrote once. Your mother was a wreck for weeks. Your grandpa told her no good would come from digging up confusion." Confusion. Another family word for truth arriving at an inconvenient time. "Were you ever going to tell me?" Grandma did not cry. That made it harder. I told myself it was not my story to tell. That is what cowards say when they are tired, honey. The honesty moved through me like cold water. I don't know what to do with any of you. You do not have to decide today. Everybody keeps saying that. Then I will say something else. Her voice steadied. You were a child. We were adults. Whatever reasons we had, you were the one left out of your own life. I bent over the steering wheel and cried then. Not prettily. Not in the way movies allow women to cry while staying symmetrical. My nose ran. My chest made sounds. A man getting into the car beside me looked over, then quickly looked away. Grandma stayed on the line. When I could breathe again, she asked if I wanted her to call my mother. For a second, the old Elena almost said yes. Let someone else manage it. Let Grandma soften the facts, prepare the room, hold my mother steady. But I had just canceled a brunch to stop outsourcing my own truth. No, I need to do something myself. I drove to my parents' house with the cake on the passenger seat and the spare key in my coat pocket. My mother opened the door before I knocked. She looked from my face to the cake box. Hope can be selfish when it is desperate. You picked it up, she breathed. Yes. She stepped aside, already rearranging the meaning. Come in. We'll make coffee. Your father is downstairs. I knew once you calmed down, we could... I did not cross the threshold. I held out the cake. She took it automatically. Then I took the key from my pocket. Her eyes dropped to it. The blue hardware store tag was soft at the edges from years of being handled. She had given it to me when I moved into my first apartment, saying it was for emergencies. Emergencies became packages on the porch, basil plants during vacation, forgotten curling irons, chairs borrowed from the basement, pies dropped off early. Elena, I'm returning this. My mother's face changed. Not anger first. Fear. Don't be dramatic. The phrase was so familiar, I almost smiled. I am standing on a porch holding a key. That is not dramatic. You are making one mistake bigger than a lifetime of love. I looked at the cake in her arms. My cake, my errand, my last little offering to the version of us where I could be hurt and still useful by dinner. I wanted that lifetime to be clean, I told her. I wanted to believe every story because believing you made me feel safe. But I am not going to keep showing up so the lie has good manners. Her mouth trembled. I am your mother. I know. That was the part that hurt. She was not being erased. She was being held responsible while still existing, which my family treated as cruelty because it was harder than hate. I placed the key on top of the cake box. She stared at it like I had left an animal there. What do you want from us? I thought about Daniel's letter waiting unread in my email. Tessa's cautious voice. Grandma's tired honesty. Mia crying in my car but still asking me to protect Mom from shame. My father writing dates in the middle of the night because some part of him finally knew love without truth had become control. The full timeline. No more pieces. No more asking me to wait until after anything. And if relatives ask why the brunch was canceled, you tell them there is a family truth I was not given, and I am taking space. You do not make me unstable in the story. You do not make Tessa intrusive. You do not make this my overreaction. My mother held the cake tighter. And if I can't do that perfectly? There was the small opening where I used to rush in. I did not. Then do it imperfectly without making me carry it. I walked back to my car without the key. For once, when I heard my mother crying behind me, I kept going. I did not go home after that. I drove past my apartment twice, slowing near the turn, then continuing because the thought of sitting alone with all my furniture facing me felt unbearable. My friend Priya lived 15 minutes away in a brick duplex with a porch light that flickered when it rained. She opened the door in leggings and an old college sweatshirt, took one look at me and stepped back without asking the kind of question that makes a person perform being broken. "Shoes off if you can manage it," she said, crying aloud on the washable blanket. I laughed, then cried because laughing had loosened something. Priya and I had met during counselor training, which meant she knew the danger of turning pain into vocabulary too quickly. She did not say trauma response. She did not say inner child. She made toast, put a chipped mug of tea on the coffee table, and sat on the floor with her back against the couch while I talked in pieces. At midnight, she brought out clean sheets for the spare room. "Stay a night," she told me. I stayed a week, then another. The spare room had a narrow bed, a plastic laundry basket full of winter scarves, and one bookshelf that leaned visibly to the left. The first morning, I woke up disoriented and reached for my phone before remembering I had left it charging in the hallway because Priya's guest outlet did not work. For 5 whole seconds, nobody could reach me. The relief scared me. My mother texted every day at first. "I am respecting your space, but I love you." Your father finished more of the timeline. "Grandma says she spoke to you and understands. Please tell me you are safe." The messages had just enough restraint to show she was trying and just enough pressure to remind me trying was still about her fear. I answered once every 2 days with one sentence. "I am safe. Send the timeline by email. I am not ready for a visit." Mia sent a paragraph on the 4th day. "I have typed this too many times. I am sorry I knew and didn't tell you. I thought I was preventing Mom from breaking, and I see now that meant I was willing to let you be the place where the break landed. I hate that. I also don't know how to be in this family if you pull away completely. I know that is selfish. I am trying not to make it your job." I read it in Priya's kitchen while she rinsed strawberries at the sink. "You don't have to grade it," Priya offered. "I know." I graded it anyway in my head. Old habit, strong insight, imperfect ownership, still a tiny hook at the end asking me to reassure her. I did not reply that day. Tessa mailed Daniel's letter in a yellow envelope with cardboard inside so it would not bend. She included 3 photographs. Daniel at maybe 25, holding a fishing pole and squinting against sun. Daniel older, thinner, sitting on a porch with a dog whose name, Tessa wrote on a sticky note, was Pickle. The hospital photo, uncropped. In the full version, my father was not there, of course, but neither was the certainty I had expected. My mother looked terrified. Daniel looked terrified. A nurse's hand reached into the frame near my blanket, adjusting something no one had posed for. It was not a picture of destiny. It was a picture of young people in a room too bright for what they did not know how to handle. I kept it on Priya's kitchen table for 3 days. Not because I loved Daniel. I didn't. You cannot love a ghost because he shares your eyebrows and leaves a letter after it is too late to answer. But the photo made my beginning feel less like a locked room. On the second Sunday after the dinner, Priya knocked on the spare room door with her knuckles. "You doing Harper dinner tonight?" I was sitting on the bed with laundry around me, folding and unfolding the same black sweater. "No." "Good, we're doing something else." She drove us to a Thai place in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax office. We ordered too much food and carried it back in plastic bags that steamed up the windows. Then she made me help change the spare room sheets. Not because they were dirty, but because she said a room should know when a person decides to stay on purpose. We assembled the leaning bookshelf after dinner. The instructions were terrible. I held one side while Priya accused a wooden peg of emotional manipulation. I laughed so hard a piece slipped and hit my shin. The bruise bloomed purple by morning. It felt good to have pain that made sense. That night, my phone buzzed in the hallway while I was spooning curry over rice at Priya's small table. I could see the screen light up from where I sat. Mom, probably. Or Mia. Or Dad with another page of dates. My body leaned toward it before I chose otherwise. Priya noticed but did not comment. I took another bite. For once, dinner did not stop because someone else needed me to manage the room. The key came back 9 days later. It arrived in a padded envelope with my mother's handwriting on the front and no return note inside. Just the brass key, the faded blue tag, and a grocery list I had forgotten I slipped into the envelope when I cleaned out my coat pocket. Lemons, coffee filters, birthday candles. I stood in Priya's kitchen holding that list while the kettle clicked off behind me. For one tired second, I understood exactly what my mother wanted. Not the key itself, the loop. She wanted me to receive it, feel the ache, call her, and let both of us pretend returning things was the same as repairing them. I put the key in a drawer. That lasted one night. The next morning before work, I took a clean envelope from Priya's desk. I slid the key inside without the grocery list. I did not write a note. Notes were where I became generous too soon. At the post office, the clerk weighed the envelope and asked if there was anything fragile, liquid, perishable, or hazardous inside. No, I said, then almost laughed because family history should qualify as at least 2 of those. That afternoon, Tessa sent one more photograph. Daniel on the porch with the dog, the sun low, one hand lifted as if he were telling whoever held the camera to stop. On the back, Tessa had written, "He hated posed pictures. You can keep this or not." I kept it. Not on my nightstand. Not framed. I tucked it into the back of a book on Priya's leaning shelf. I did not need a replacement father watching me sleep. I needed proof that I was allowed to know my own beginning without asking permission from the people who loved me badly around it. My parents did send the full timeline eventually. It was uneven, defensive in places, honest in others. My mother wrote 3 sentences about fear for every 1 sentence about choice. My father admitted he had confused earning the role of father with owning the story of how he got it. Mia and I met for coffee in April, and she cried into a napkin and did not ask me to hug her. I appreciated that enough to stay until both our drinks went cold. Nothing became clean. That was the part nobody warns you about. A truth can free you and still leave dirty dishes in the sink. You can set a boundary and still miss the person standing on the other side of it. You can be right and lonely at the same time. On the first Sunday in May, Priya made too much pasta, and I bought a cheap bunch of tulips from the grocery store. Not for my mother. For the small table by the window. Rain tapped the glass while we ate. My phone charged in the hallway, face down on a stack of mail. No one had assigned me a chair. No one watched my face to see if I would make the room easier. After dinner, I washed 2 plates, dried my hands, and looked at the tulips leaning open in their jar. For the first time in weeks, I did not feel like a daughter misplaced between two stories. I felt like a woman sitting exactly where she had chosen to sit,